We live in an aging world. While this has been recognized for some time in developed countries, it is only recently that this phenomenon has been fully acknowledged. Global communication is shrinking the world, and global aging is maturing it. The increasing presence of older persons in the world is making people of all ages more aware that we live in a diverse and multi-generational society. It is no longer possible to ignore aging, regardless of whether one views it positively or negatively. Demographics note that if current trends in aging continue as predicted, a demographic revolution, wherein the proportions of the young and the old will undergo a historic crossover, will be felt in just 3 generations. This portrait of change in the world's population parallels the magnitude of the Industrial Revolution, traditionally considered the most significant social and economic breakthrough in the history of humankind since the Neolithic period. It marked the beginning of a sustained movement towards modern economic growth in much the same way that globalization is today marking an unprecedented and sustained movement toward a global culture. The demographic revolution, it is envisaged, will be at least as powerful. While the future effects are not known, a likely scenario is one where both the challenges as well as the opportunities will emerge from a vessel into which exploration and research, dialogue and debate are poured. Challenges arise as social and economic structures try to adjust to the simultaneous phenomenon of diminishing young cohorts with rising older ones. By living in close contact with humans, dogs have developed specific skills that enable them to interact and communicate effectively with people. Recent studies have shown that the canine brain can pick up on emotional cues contained in a person's voice, body odor and posture, and read their faces. In this study, the authors observed what happened when they presented photographs of the same 2 adults' faces, a man and a woman, to 26 feeding dogs. The images were placed strategically to the sides of the animal's line of sight, and the photos showed a human face expressing one of the 6 basic human emotions: anger, fear, happiness, sadness, surprise, disgust, or being neutral. The dogs showed greater response and cardiac activity when shown photographs that expressed arousing emotional states such as anger, fear and happiness. They also took longer to resume feeding after seeing these images. The dog's increased heart rate indicated that in these cases they experienced higher levels of stress. In addition, dogs turned their heads to the left when they saw human faces expressing anger, fear or happiness. The reverse happened when the faces looked surprised, possibly because dogs view it as a non-threatening, relaxed expression. These findings, therefore, support the existence of an asymmetrical emotional modulation of dogs' brains to process basic human emotions. Negotiation is a common process in business to mainly solve business conflicts between both parties.
The National Oceanography Center (NOC) is engaged in research into the potential risks and benefits of exploiting deep-sea mineral resources, some of which are essential for low-carbon technology, as well as using ocean robots to estimate the environmental impact of the potential deep-sea mining activities. Late last year, the NOC led an expedition on the RRS James Cook that found enough of the scarce element tellurium present in the crust of a submerged volcano that, if it were all to be used in the production of solar PV panels, could provide 2/3 of the UK's annual electricity supply. Recently, the NOC also led an international study demonstrating deep-sea nodule mining will cause long-lasting damage to deep-sea life, lasting at least for decades. These nodules are potato-sized rocks containing high levels of metals, including copper, manganese and nickel. They grow very slowly on the seabed, over millions of years. Although no commercial operations exist to extract these resources, many are planned. Professor Edward Hill, executive director at the NOC, commented, "By 2050 there will be 9 billion people on Earth and attention is increasingly turning to the ocean, particularly the deep ocean, for food, clean supplies of energy and strategic minerals." The NOC is undertaking research related to many aspects and perspectives involved in exploiting ocean resources. Ethics is a set of moral obligations that define right and wrong in our practices and decisions. Many professions have a formalized system of ethical practices that help guide professionals in the field. For example, doctors commonly take the Hippocratic Oath, which, among other things, states that doctors do no harm to their patients. Engineers follow an ethical guide that states that they hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. Within these professions, as well as within science, the principles become so ingrained that practitioners rarely have to think about adhering to the ethic. It's part of the way they practice. And a breach of ethics is considered very serious, punishable at least within the profession by revocation of a license, for example, and sometimes by the law as well. As scientific ethics calls for honesty and integrity in all stages of scientific practice, from reporting results regardless of properly attributing collaborators. This system of ethics guides the practice of science, from data collection to publication and beyond. As in other professions, the scientific ethic is deeply integrated into the way scientists work, and they are aware that the reliability of their work and scientific knowledge in general depends upon adhering to that ethic. Many of the ethical principles in science relate to the production of unbiased scientific knowledge. Current research into the nature of the relationship between participation in physical activity, sport and educational performance has produced mixed, inconsistent and often non-comparable results. For example, some cross-sectional studies illustrate a positive correlation between participation in sport and physical activity and academic success, e.g., maths, reading, acuity, reaction times. However, critics point to a general failure to solve the issue of direction of cause, whether intelligence leads to success in sport, whether involvement in sport enhances academic performance, or whether a third factor, e.g. personality traits, explains both. Longitudinal studies also generally support the suggestion that academic performance is enhanced, or at least maintained, by increased habitual physical activity. Yet such studies are criticized for not being definitive because some do not use randomized allocation of pupils to experimental and control groups to control for pre-existing differences. Others tend to use subjective, teacher-assigned grades to assess academic achievement, rather than standardized and comparable tests, and some programmers include parallel interventions, making it difficult to isolate specific effects. Asda has become the first food retailer in the country to measure how much customers can save by cutting back on food waste, thanks to a knowledge transfer partnership (KTP) with the University of Leeds. The idea behind the KTP was for the university, using Asda's customer insight data, to apply its research to identify, investigate and implement ways of helping customers to reduce their food waste. This was one of the first times that a major retailer had tried to deliver large-scale sustainability changes, with the 2-year project seen as a way for Asda to position themselves as true innovators in this area. The campaign focused on providing customers with advice on everything from food storage and labeling, to creative recipes for leftovers. Meanwhile, in-store events encouraged customers to make changes in their own. They will make changes to how they deal with food waste in their own homes, leading to an average saving of £57 per customer, as well as a reduction in waste. A key aspect of a KTP is that an associate is employed by the university to work in the firm and help deliver the desired outcomes of the KTP. As a part of the collaboration with Asda, Laura Babs was given the task of driving forward the sustainability changes in the retailer. As a result of the success of her work, Laura eventually became a permanent member of the team at Asda.